Good afternoon. You join me in the kitchen. It's quite cold, so I've moved out of the sunroom, and now we're going to be moving on to Improvers Lesson 2, which is looking at the lookup functions. So we're going to look at VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, and then maybe use that as a practical demonstration. So let's have a look at what the lookup function is. So lookup function helps you find specific information in a data set. Instead of searching manually, you can use a formula to locate the value and then return the related data quickly. And you can read this at your own time, but we've got some different functions. We've got vertical lookup, horizontal lookup, and we've got the new one, XLOOKUP. So let's just have a look at an example. We've got a table here with some ID and then some names, and then we've got this lookup ID, and then we want to return the value of the name there. So for example, if I now turn this to 3, this should now turn to Charlie, which is quite useful, which it does. And the formula for that is VLOOKUP. And if we look in the functions bar, we can see, and what it's doing is it's looking up the value in cell D21, which is here. It's looking up the table array, and the table array is here. And then it's saying what's the column index number that we're looking at, number 2. Now what we need to be mindful of with both VLOOKUP and with HLOOKUP, you've got to look for the values in the left-hand column, and this is a disadvantage when you look at XLOOKUP. And we've also put down that we're looking for a false, so we're looking for an exact match, because if we don't, it'll just return something else. So let's just have a look and see how we go about doing that. So we're just going to go in there, type equals VLOOKUP, open brackets, and now we can say it's looking for the value. Well, the value is this cell here, comma. What's the table array? The table array is this here. What's the column index number? Well, that's column 1, that's column 2, so we're after column 2. And we want an exact match, which is false, so we'll write false there. Close brackets, and it brings an NA, and that's because there's no value in there at the moment. But if I put in there number 2, we should see it change to Bob, which it does. Okay, you could get around the NA by wrapping that in an error, if error. So let's just have a go back and have a look and see what that would be. So in here, if we just put if error, open brackets, then at the end comma, and then 2 exclamation marks or 2 quotation marks, close brackets, that should bring back that we get rid of that error there. So that's just one thing that you could do if you wanted to. Horizontal lookup is the same format, but instead of looking in a vertical manner, you're now looking in a horizontal manner. So for example, here, we're looking for Diane, and we are looking for the value in G31, which is here. The table array is this here. And instead of looking at the column index, we're now looking at the row index, which is 2. And again, we're looking for false. Okay, so here we are, just let's, so equals HLOOKUP, open brackets, look up the value, which is this one here, comma, the table array, comma, and the row index is we are looking for row 2, and then false, close parentheses, brackets, and there we go, Alice. And if I put this to 2, it goes to Bob. Let's see what happens if we remove false and we put true, so it just looks for an exact match. We've got Bob, but let's see what happens if we put 5 in there. And you can see it doesn't bring back an exact match, it brings back the match that's nearest to it, which is what we don't want. So that's why it's a good idea to put false in there. Now, because it's now come up with no name because there isn't a 6, but there is a 4. XLOOKUP is slightly different. Let's just look at the formula in here. And what it's doing is it's looking up a value in here, D.1. It's looking up an array. So it's looking up the column. It's looking for the return array, which is this here. And then if you don't find it, it says what's the name that you're going to put in, no name found. And this is quite handy because the data doesn't need to be in the left-hand column. It can be in anywhere, which is more handy. So let's just have a look at this. So again, equals XLOOK brackets, and we're looking up the value, which is this here. We're looking up the array. Well, we want, this is the array there. And what's the return array, which is there. If it's not found, what we're going to put down? Well, we put down not found. Close brackets, press enter, so we can see that this is Alice. If we now put 5 in here, this should now return an answer of not found. Oh, there we go, not found. So that's one way that we can do that. So that's just an introduction to VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, and XLOOKUP. Let's look at V and HLOOKUP again in practice. So this is an example of we've got some makes of cars, and they've got different engine sizes, doors, miles per gallon, year. And then we're going to put a lookup function in here, which looks up the value for each one of these activities if we put something, a car detail, into there. Okay. So again, let's look at what this is. So we're going to say equals V lookup, open brackets. And what's the value? Well, we're going to click this cell here. What's the table array? Well, we're going to select all the table there. Okay. Go a little bit above. Okay. And we could put this into absolute cell references. And what's the column index number? Well, it's the lookup the door, so it's 1, 2, 3. So it's column 3. And we want a true match, so it's false. Press enter. And again, it's got NA because there's nothing in here at the moment. But if we now put Audi, we can see that it now changes to 5. So Audi, 5 doors. Likewise, if we go to Dacia, it should change to 3. So let's just do that again and use it for miles per gallon. So that equals V look up, open brackets, open brackets. We're looking up the value, which is I16. We're looking up the table array, which is this one. And then the column index, miles per gallon, would be 4. And again, false. I could, if I wanted to, make the table array as an absolute cell reference and then just copy these across, but this is just for demonstration purposes. Again, we've got an error there, so it doesn't show that, so we'd have to wrap that within an error function if we wanted to get rid of that. But if we put in here VW, it now changes to 61 miles per gallon. And likewise, if we look up the year, this equals V look up, open brackets, the value, below, comma, we're looking up the table, highlight that. We want the column index, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we want false. So again, NA there. And if we put Renault, it will then come 2018. So we can see that that comes up with that. And then you've got to practice one there. Likewise, we could do the same for it within a horizontal lookup. So we're looking up for the doors, that equals H lookup, open brackets, we're looking at the value, which is this cell here. We're looking up the array, which is that one there. And now we're looking for the value of the row where the doors are. So that's 1, 2, 3. False, close brackets, and there we go, NA. So now if I change this to BMW, this now changes to 5. So doors 5. So you can do this for the others as well if you want to. This is where XLOOKUP gets slightly a little bit better actually. So we've put here an error message. We've put down input vehicle type below. We've also put down that it's a 0 there. So specify how to match values against the values in the lookup table. So by default, an exact match is returned. So if I got rid of that, that would be fine. Okay. So input vehicle types. If I input Toyota, it would then come up with 161655cc. So let's use XLOOKUP for this. But first of all, because with VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, you have to have these, what you're looking up, in the left-hand column. But it's slightly different when you're using XLOOKUP because that doesn't matter. Let's just move them there. Okay, and then move all of these to this side, which may then give a better demonstration. And so we can see that now that's moved. Okay, so it's moved itself automatically because we moved that column. So let's look at this. This equals XLOOKUP, open brackets. And we're looking up the value. So the value is in this cell here when we input the data. We're now looking up the array. What is it we're looking for? Well, we're looking up for the cars. So it's this column here. Okay, which is very different than XLOOKUP or HLOOKUP because they need to be on the left-hand side or at the top of the rows. So now we're looking for the return. What do we want to return? We want to look up the doors. So the doors are there, comma. If we don't find it, what do we want it to do? Well, we're going to put input vehicle type below. Okay. Or we could say vehicle not found. Close brackets, and there we go. Input vehicle type below. So now if I now go to Audi, we can see that the Audi's got 5 doors. And if we click into this, into the formula bar, we can see this is what it's looking up. It's looking at the value here, Audi. It's looking up the value array, which is this here. And then it's looking for what it's going to input on the way back, which is there. And if we've not got that, then we're looking for the input vehicle type. Just about to sneeze, pardon me. Let's try that again. On miles per gallon, pardon me, equals XLOOKUP, open brackets. We're looking up I13. We're looking up the array, which is this here. We're looking up the value, the return array. So we're looking up the miles per gallon. So this is there. And the value if not found, input car type, close brackets. So input car type below. So we could put there Lexus. And that would come up with 61 there. And again, you could do that for look up the year as well. You could make these conditionally absolute cell references so that the array. The lookup array would be an absolute cell reference, and then you could drag the formula across, autofill the formula across, and then just change the columns if you wanted to. So let's just have a look how that might be with this one here. So if we make the columns the lookup array as an absolute cell reference, and also the, if we do that, and then if we drag this across, we can see that now the lookup values moved across, the array has stayed the same, but the lookup year has moved across as well. So we'll just autofill that in there. So now we could add Mazda, and we can see 2016. So X lookup gives us sort of like certainly more flexibility than V and H lookup. There are some practice ones here for you to have a look at. So please feel free to do that. And there's some things that you can put in. So there's a demonstration, but I'm not going to do that. But there's the one completed, and there's the price one there for you to have a look at. And then there's an X lookup one that you can have a look up there. Take two, we're going to look at a weekly menu, a weekly food menu, so that you're in a household and you want to select a menu in there, and then all the items you just want to appear so that you can then get a shopping list in here, and then it'll select them all. And what we want to do is select these meal and the items from this page here. And these are Hello Fresh meals, and all I've done is I've just extracted the items from them and put them into a table like that. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to select these cells here and put them in as a data list so that we have to select the actual meals. And we're going to do that. We're going to go to the Data tab, and then go to this here, which is Data Tools, and then go to Data Validation. And then we're going to choose Values. We're going to choose the list. And then our source is here. So we're going to select row column A, and we're going to go all the way down to 50 in case we need to get some more in there. If we wanted to, and I can apply these changes to all the other cells, so it will select all the other cells that I'm applying that to. And if I wanted to, I could put an input message in here, show input message when the cells are selected, meal selection, select the meal from the drop down menu, that if you wanted to do that, but I'm not going to do that. Then I'm going to click OK. And now, when I click on a meal, I can see that all my meals have come up there and I can select it. But I've got a blank space there. And the reason why I've got a blank space is because I went down to cell number 50 or row 50. However, if I now go up to here and put another meal in, let's just put fish and chips. What will happen is when I go back to my weekly menu, fish and chips will have been picked up at the bottom there. Now, if you don't like this space, what you can do is you can put what's called a trim operator in there, and it'll trim the range. And I'll just show you how to do that. So if I go back down to, or back up to data validation, and in my settings, and I go to the source, after the colon there, if I just put a full stop, you can see it's now going to trim the range and it'll go up to fish and chips. Click OK. Okay, so now what happens is I don't have a blank space, which is good. If I got rid of fish and chips, it should trim the range, and the last one would be no meal needed, and then we can go there, no meal needed. And this will then apply to all of these. And now what I'm going to use is an X lookup function to pull the information from the meals into here. So I'm going to start in this one. I'm going to type equals X lookup, open brackets, and I'm going to choose this cell here, and I'm going to make that an absolute cell reference, comma. Well, what am I looking up? Well, I'm going on the meals, and then I'm looking up this column here, and I'm going to go down to cell 50, to row 50, and I'm going to put a trim operator in there, which is a full stop. You don't have to do that, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to make these absolute cell reference. Then what's my return array? What do I want it to return? Well, what do I want it to return? I want it to return the items 1 in column B. If I go down to cell row 50, again, put a trim operator in there, and then close parenthesis, it should then pull the dice chicken breast through. Now, because I've got this cell here as an absolute cell reference, I've got the lookup array as an absolute cell reference. When I drag these across, it should fill them in. So we know that on Chinese style chicken noodles, stir fry, items 8 and 9, there's no items in there. So if I went up here, Chinese style chicken noodles, 8 and 9, there's none. So we know it's pulling it through. Now, I don't know why, but if I try to pull these, autofill these down, it doesn't add the values in, even if I change these. So there might be a reason why it's doing that. So we're going to have to do it individually. So again, the second row, let's just do it one more time, and then I'll pause there, fill the rest of it in, and then we'll continue. So let's just say that that's bang bang chicken, doesn't matter what it is, equals X lookup, open brackets. Oh, put the O in there. Okay, open brackets. That cell there, let's turn that into an absolute cell reference. The array that we're looking for is in column A. Let's go down to 50. Let's get a trim operator in there with a full stop. Let's make this an absolute cell reference, that an absolute cell reference. What value are we wanting to return? Well, we're wanting to return the meals item 1 down to 50, row 50. Let's put the trim operator in there. Then we can close parenthesis, close that down, and we've got a typo in there, and it's not accepted that because I've got a full stop there. Hold on, it's missing a, so it's missing a 50, and there's a BD there. I've put that wrong. This is what happens when you mess about. So I've missed out the range there, so hopefully that's sorted that out now. To B51. Okay. Hopefully that's sorted out. Chicken breast, and you see what happens when you just mess about. Right, hopefully that's gone, and let's just check that. Sticky bang bang style chicken. Item 9 is limes. So sticky bang bang chicken. Item 9. So we know that it's pulling it through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop there. I'm going to get the rest of the table filled in, and then we're going to continue with the second part. So I've now added and filled out the rest of the table. What I've done with these bottom ones is I've put down enter a selection. So if you didn't enter a selection in here, so we deleted it, it would then tell you to enter a selection. Whereas with the top ones, I didn't do that. If I delete that, it would then go to NA. So that's the beauty of XLOOKUP. You can change it and you can put an error message in if you wanted to. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look at this here, which is it's extracted a shopping list from all these items here, but you can see some of these items are duplicated, like none is duplicated a lot of times. Diced chicken breast we've got twice. So if we click into this cell here, B12, and look at the formula, what it's doing is it's called a vertical stack of V-stack, and it's stacking the columns that have got item 1, 2, 3 and 4 in and putting them all in together. It's then extracting them and making it unique, so it only takes out the single values, so it doesn't duplicate, and then it sorts it into alphabetical order. And again, with the second column, it's done the same again. It's picked up items 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So let's just have a look and see how we can do that. So I'm going to make the shopping list here. First of all, I'm going to call it shopping list. And remember, we don't really want to merge cells. We just want to make it that we go across the selection. So remember, we go to the Home tab, Alignment Settings, and then Center across selection. And then that will put that across selection for us. For now, click into the first cell where we want the vertical stack to start. And I'm going to say equals VStack, open brackets. And it says array 1. Well, we want the items in item 1, comma, item 2, comma, item 3, comma, item 4, comma. Press enter, and you can see it's now put the list of all these that were in here and stack them vertically upon each other. The difficulty is we've got 2 sets of chicken breast, 2 sets of diced chicken breast, so we really need to look at that and adjust it. So we're going to wrap this in unique equals UNIQUE, open brackets, close brackets, and now look what happens. It then extracts and makes the unique figures there. And now, if I sort them, it'll sort it in alphabetical order, in ascending. So, and there we go. So that's, I've now got my shopping list for items 1, 2, 3 and 4. If I now do this for the items 5, 6, 7 and 8, so this equals VStack, open brackets, array 1, column 5, comma, array 2, comma, array 3, comma, array 4, comma, array 5, close brackets. And you can see now that we've got the list stacked upon itself, but we're going to apply the unique and then the sort formula to it. And you'll notice that the unique and the sort is only applicable in the first cell, because then what it does is it spills the results down further down, so you can't alter the formulas there. So we're going to alter it in the first cell. So we're going to wrap it equal unique, open brackets, close brackets there. So now it's extracted each unique item out of there, and then we will sort it in alphabetical order. Open. And I hope that's been useful for you. It's quite interesting that you can't copy down the formulas. When X lookup, although you seem to be able to copy them across, you can't copy them down. I don't know why that is, but I'll probably look into that a little bit. But this is what I'm using currently to get a weekly menu, so I can work out what shopping I'm going to use and then what we're going to have during the week, because my wife and I were quite busy people. So I hope you found that quite useful, and here's on to Improvers 3.